Chef? Really, Chef?
That religious people can't do all kind of fucked up
Savior
shit.
need to get his ass on.
I'm never saying that.
Hey, no Saint, where no Saint at? Where you at, Cedric? Oh, okay. Hey, Cedric, where you at? How y'all just done? Cedric. Meeting is now streaming live. How did I get over here? Did I hit the vortex? Did it just like beam me over to the serial killers? Cedric. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how this happened. I cannot hear nobody. I didn't understand that. How did I end up on here? Everybody gone. Left me in this motherfucker by myself. Yeah. Hit the live button.
I'm right here. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not versed enough in that conversation because, of course, I don't deal with none of the religions. I'm an atheist. But you're gonna say a West African nation is sovereign Muslim. like I don't need to argue after that. That's like somebody telling me the water dry.
Yo, shit, I see you. I'm Thunder, done. Yo, Thunder, where was you at? Yo, we was on the Real Black Ages. Ladisha, we was on the Real Black Ages. You need to subscribe to the channel. You forgot about me. I appreciate that. Where's everybody at? I see y'all, man. I see y'all power in the building, man.
Receive you.
Oh, we gotta change the comment. We gotta change the title. Oh shoot. Hold on, y'all. Wrong title. Yo. We don't want that title. Dang. Man. I gotta do a whole lot of switching. Go ahead, go ahead. What was you saying, yo?
I'm saying that's an oxymoronic statement.
What?
A sovereign African nation, Muslim. That's like a sovereign African Christian nation. Like, how did it become Christian? How did it become Muslim? How sovereign are they? And you won't tell me when they use jihad to move across West Africa, right? To move across Africa. And what is jihad? A religious war. But these people were sovereign Muslims. Like, make it make sense. Most of us got on the boat voluntarily. That's why we over here.
Islam, man. Man, we banging on Islam. Where you at, Chef? Supporter Islam. Let me get this straight. Bang on black people to say they Egyptians, but yet you big up the Muslims that encroached in Africa and enslaved people. I'm confused.
I'm confused. And they helped the West African.
Explain that.
First of all, the West African was sovereign, powerful nations that became Muslims, but the Muslim is who helped them develop.
Yeah, you need to explain that. Yeah, they're gonna have, ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem here. We have a problem here. We changed the title up. Islam saved them niggas. Now I can put that, yo.
No, Islam isn't a doctrine based on a philosophy. So we got the doctrine, right? So we can read the doctrine and actually see if it makes more sense than Fuqiyah.
Oh man, not the Fuqiyah again. Lost friends over Fuqiyah.
The stupid nonsense that's in that Quran. If you tell me that improved my people, then why not Christianity? Same shit. I was standing the other day, and you know what was surprising? I'm looking at an African and an Arab. The Arab, Ankh, is dressed in jeans, t-shirt, and some sneakers. And the African has a dress on and a kofi. Like the African is more Arab than the Arab.
Yeah, that's always like black people, Jesus out Jesus Christ the Pope.
Like, huh? That did what for Africans?
Yeah. All right.
Today, when we look at people trying to cross, when we look at West Africans trying to cross into Spain and Italy via Algeria and Libya, if you watch how these so-called Muslims treat other Muslims, then I'm wondering why in the hell would a black man, a black African, take on a religion that those who originated it from put them in chains. There is slavery happening today in Libya and Algeria by Muslims against these African Muslims. And Chef gonna sit up here and say, what? Man, I don't want to have these conversations. I don't want to have, these are dumb conversations, ignorant conversations. I'm simply not gonna have it. Like, you don't know the state of the world today. You trying to undermine the history. You trying to undermine how the Spaniards have a 700-year relationship with Africans by means of them being a slave army. Like, you gonna deny all of that. They used to cut the men balls and dick off so that they could mind their harems.
Hey, man. Just that pseudo killer special over here, man. Where you at? Where you at, Chef? Where y'all at?
They did great things for African people. Huh? Either the Africans were great or they wasn't. And then which influence did the Quran, Muslim and Islam bring to African people what are beneficial? Today, what is happening in Nigeria? The war that is happening on the border between Rwanda and Kenya, it's all religious based, Islam based. Black people killing other black people because they're not Muslim or because they're not Christian. And you want to talk about the benefits that these religions brought to Africa? None of the three monotheistic religions did any good for Africa. None. Now, I'm not saying that their indigenous religions did any better, but the natural progression of the people was stifled by these religious invaders that created a mindset that is anti-African. They don't function for African. Africans see themselves as inferior because they don't adopt one of these three monotheistic religions. And they become superior. Once I'm a Muslim now, you don't practice Muslim, you're inferior. How does these things help the African continent? We talk about unification, which we can't do because no people in that large of a space can be one-minded. But these religions don't help either, and they never did. So don't come here with that nonsense, not to me. And you're gonna bring a bunch of sources that was written by Arabs with a Muslim mindset about Africa, and then say, look, see, these people were this, and the Arabs did this, and what?
He says you got the controls though. So when you're ready to die out, then they cut it. I'm waiting for Chef. I know he's coming.
Yeah, you go.
He finished his meal. So let me make this point, man. First of all, man, welcome to the Pseudo Killers, man. Y'all know what it is, man. Appreciate y'all showing up in the building, man. We just finished the Real Black Atheist show. All right, man. If y'all not subscribed to the Real Black Atheist channel, go over there. Just gonna be a different type of conversation. You know, we like to really debate over here and get that shit cracking. We had debate to the point we ain't fucking with each other no more. That's what it is. I mean, look, that's the way the world works. So it is what it is. Like, I accept where I'm at in the world. I accept the things I go through in this thing of mine. I accept what it is, what I do. Friends will come and friends will go based off of the conversation. But go ahead, Cedric. I just wanted to talk about Africa and Islam in Africa for where you think it is, and I'm waiting for Chef to jump in here. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, as an atheist, I observe and take stock of the total effect of these religions and the effect that they have on our people. They all come in with a superiority complex, indicating that your tradition, your culture, your beliefs, your ways is inferior. There's a group that adopts it, there's a group that doesn't adopt it, and that creates an internal battle in itself. To say that Islam had any positive effect overall on the people, no. The Arab slave trade went on, and in some cases, Mauritania, Libya, and Algeria, till to this day. So what? Anybody trying to convince me that any of the three monotheistic religions had any good-hearted or good interest or came into Africa to better Africa or its people, that's a farce. And if Chef is going to claim that Muslims actually helped build West Africa off the backs of the people, show me the great civilizations that are there today that they left behind, or they pillaged, took slaves up into North Africa, into Europe. That wasn't a whole slave trade going on. So how did this slave trade benefit anybody? And then the same Chef is going to talk about Nzinga is a slave. The rationale makes no sense to me. And again, even up to today, the wars, the killings, the murder that is taking place in Nigeria, that's taking place on the border between Kenya and Rwanda, all based on what? Muslim, Arab, Islam, a tradition and a religion that has nothing to do with the Africans. Nothing. Just as little as Christianity. So we beaten up on the Hebrews and we tackling these people, and all these so-called Muslim and Islamic religions get a pass. We don't talk about the dysfunction of the NOI. They are now Scientologists pushing anti-vax in the Black community, not to mention what they were doing during the AIDS epidemic. They gaslight. We ain't going there. Because Muslim, as if Muslim is so somehow more Black or more African than Christianity. No, they're both the same. Come out of Africa, came in with one objective: to enslave the people. No Saints, you can unmute your mic. No Saints, you there? Unmute your mic.
Yeah. I'm here. I'm watching watching a little NBA right now. Sorry.
You're doing double time.
Yeah. Yeah. I just been paying attention to it, and during commercial, I'll turn it down a little bit.
Who's playing?
It's just a local game. It's the Pelicans and Golden State. But Golden State, they're missing a lot of players right now.
Preseason or the season already started?
No, season started.
Oh, yeah. I'm a Golden State fan. It's just a whole team basketball aspect of it I like.
Yeah. They're resting they're for whatever reason. I guess they played last night, so they're resting a bunch of their starters right now. So I don't think they're hurt. I just think they're they're resting them. Yeah.
Season is early.
Yeah, definitely. So when I was checking in, I noticed Unc was checking out, and Chef was supposed to be getting in here soon, huh?
Yes. Chef made that crazy claim, and I'm just setting up the arena. Casabio and Chef will battle that one out. Casabio is well versed in the subject of Islam and the history how that all took place. He's been dying to have this conversation. So Chef is a proponent of of Muslims and the Arab and Islam having a great and positive influence on Africa. I beg to differ, but I'll listen to the debate.
Yeah, definitely listen. Yeah, it'd be something to listen to.
Yeah,
I was
gave my
sharing. I know I was listening to a little bit of it, and I think you were making comments on like the taking slaves and things like that. And I think what's throughout history, what you realize is like, well, it's kind of crazy, but like pagans were like fair game, right? Anybody could enslave a pagan. But if you were Christian, you couldn't enslave other Christians. So if you had like a Christian power next to you, and you'd probably behoove you to become like a Christian, right? Instead of staying like a pagan, where you were fair game to the Muslims, you were fair game to everybody. But it's kind of crazy how that's. I mean, you can see how
I mean,
religion in general.
I don't have this visceral, and I don't view slavery with the modern context. I keep saying it was the technology of its day and age, right? But
yeah,
so I don't have that very. Although it was bad and people suffered, it was the system of the day. It was the technology. It was human power. But to say that there wasn't a distinct and clear motive why these different religious-based groups came into this area is a false narrative. And to say that it benefited the people, that's if I look at the consequences up until today, and the destruction and the wars and the chaos that belief in these ideas causes on the continent. Again, I refer to some of the conflicts that exist up until this day. You see a bunch of quote unquote Muslim Africans trying to get into Europe via Algeria and Libya, and they are being enslaved.
Yes. Yep.
They're being enslaved. Now, we're going to have the conversation. These are Africans. But the people that are enslaving them consider themselves Arabs.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, like they may have been there 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 years. I don't know. But they identify as Arab. This is what is so crazy. I lived in a building in Europe with quote unquote Egyptian. And this is where my misconception came from. This Egyptian, two of them, they never said the word Africa. They would talk about being Arabs and from Egypt. Now you can understand where now when I have these conversations and they're all Africans. No, they ain't. I'm gonna go to that dude that clearly looks like an Arab. He's gonna tell me he identifies as an Arab. He doesn't identify as an African. And this is just stuff I know firsthand from having had these conversations. A Somalian would look at me and say, "You're an African brother. You're from the Caribbean. I'm a Somalian. We're different. We're both Africans." And he would tell me, based on being in a Western environment, I'm assuming that he would identify equally as Black. I don't want to have that conversation, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So you know, like, so when I listen to the conversations with a grain of salt, because I'm gonna go to a Arab-looking Egyptian. He may have been born there and been there for 300 generations. He's gonna identify as Arab. I've had this personal experience, so don't tell me no. He's not gonna say I'm an African. He's not.
Yeah. It's kind of they're wanting to separate themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're a bit disingenuous when we say like, yeah, They've been there for 300 years, 400 years, 500, however long. So we can't say we can't call them Arabs, or we can't like when we're taking shots, we would say invader, right?
Right.
Especially in these YouTube streets. You're not gonna want somebody in their face and call them an invader, because that would be disrespectful. But the Arab identifies as an Arab, born, raised Egyptian. But he will tell you, I'm an Arab. So now put it into context when we're having all of these conversations.
Yeah.
You know, so but when Chef makes it clear that Islam was good for the continent, you're gonna have to quantify that. How do you mean?
I'm curious to see what he's gonna say, because I want to hear what he means by that. I mean,
I'm waiting.
because I mean, yeah, I just have to hear his point of view on it to
maybe there are a couple of points that I can completely agree with. Who knows? But the overall picture, if I'm to take a measurement, I think that the end outcome would be not too positive.
Well, you know, that's yeah. I mean, I think you look in.
You taught me how to grow rice, but it costed me my freedom.
Right.
So we're the best rice growers in the world, but now we're completely indoctrinated and don't know who we are, totally absorbed in another culture. Is that really beneficial? We're warring over there with people that are our brothers based on the fact that they don't share this imported belief. We find them inferior now when they look exactly like us.
Yeah. But you hear, I don't want to say this is where Chef's coming from. I'm not saying this, so I just want to qualify what I'm about to say. I'm not saying he's coming from this, but it reminds me, we were in a town 2 hours outside of Mexico City, and they were having this celebration. I want to say they have it all the time, but so they have these people, these dressed up in like the Aztec type garb, I guess, clothing, and they're circling around this statue of San Miguel. And so my wife speaks Spanish, and she's talking to her brother, and the guy's saying on the microphone something in Spanish, and they're looking at each other. I said, well, what'd he say? He said, that they're thankful that San Miguel came and settled the area. If not, they would be back, and they would be, look at all the things he brought. Look, if it wasn't for this, they would be still back in the whatever, backwards, basically. You know what I'm saying? And they were looking at each other, and I was like, wow. I was like, that, it's kind of easy to say when you weren't the one to have to pay for all these great things that you say you have.
You didn't get wiped out from disease. Hernan Cortez didn't chop your head off.
Yeah, right. And that, I mean, and it was I got to see a lot when I was in Mexico, and I mean, great, the old civilization it was impressive. And and now they have a mixture, right? They have a mixture of European and old, Mesoamerica culture there, to what it is now. But yeah, it was kind of weird to know that these guys and to see these people celebrating around this, this Saint Miguel or whatever.
I completely get it. I live in the Caribbean, and with this consciousness, especially when you look at a Catholic church, and you go and you see the people flocking in there, like Roman Catholic Church, like 2022.
Yes.
And the fact of the matter is the way they look at you, as if you are a problem because you don't engage and no longer see these doctrines as true. And then today is the worship of the saint, the so and so and so of the, wow, how did he become what? Who is that? Why is he a saint? What is a saint? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, all the churches there, Catholic churches there, and I mean, beautiful architecture and everything. It was just, I guess, speaking with so many people through in the YouTube streets, like you said, and I live in a city that is predominantly Catholic, but not as Catholic as what I saw down there.
Yep. Yep. The Spanish have a Catholic on a whole nother level. You can even notice it in the Caribbean islands. Like I come from the East Caribbean, and we're affiliated by colonialism to ABC Islands in the South Caribbean. They are closer to Latin America, so Curacao, Aruba, and Bonaire. They're predominantly Catholic too. But if you see the expression, they pass a church and they do the sign of the cross every time they pass a church.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, I'm Catholic too, but I never knew that. Like when so we go to our sister islands. My father's from there. I was born there. We speak a Latin dialect there, and the Catholicism is much more ingrained in the Latin-speaking countries than the Eastern Caribbean. These are much more Protestant, Methodist orientated. St. Martin's unique; it's predominantly Catholic still, but the intensity with which it is expressed is far less. Although the majority of the schools, for example, are Catholic-based, so I'm atheist and have to deal with my 5-year-old daughter proclaiming God and Jesus every day by means of education. So that's that battle. No, that's a story. Like how we watch Spider-Man. Yeah, well, it's the same thing. It's not real. It's not real. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And so and that's not a private school, huh?
They are private. They're subsidized by government. So the public schools are public schools everywhere are public schools. So they are subsidized yet private, and then there are really private schools. So two of my elder kids, they go to the private school, but that's $1,000 a head each month. So you take the less of two evils. So she's it's a private school, and you have the education is good, but the drawback is the religious aspect. It's just the system and the system that has been tried and proven. The Catholic Church are some of the first to establish schools in different areas and stuff like that. And their system of creating belief is very strong. That's why, again, when people reach 30 years, 40 years, and they start to really dig in and let go of the stuff, their system of thinking, processing information, belief-based is so grounded that most people don't distinguish a claim from a fact.
Yeah.
We get into debates based on presuppositions that have not been established based on a claim. We get into these long debates, like, whoa. Before we go that far, you have to establish the validity of the claim. And especially in these arenas where everybody wants to get their build off, it's difficult because I'm stopping you after the first sentence. Okay, that's your claim. Quantify the claim before we can go any further, because I'm not going to argue your imagination. Simply not going to do it.
So I'm curious, because kind of like here, like I live in an area, and I moved to this area specifically because the public schools were probably some of the best in the state, but our public school system here is really bad. And but there are anybody who has the means, many people who have the means, send their kids to the private Catholic schools, which is it's probably $1,000 a month would be, $1,000 a month sounds about right. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it's the same. And so I'm curious if the reason that you send them to that school is the same reason that people here do. They kind of abandon the public school.
No. Here, for example, we have a couple of American-based schools that are completely secular.
Uh-huh.
And those are like what we consider the private schools, like they're expensive. And then we've always had a Catholic-based school system, and we have a Methodist one also, and a couple of Seventh-day Adventist schools. But the Methodist is predominantly English-based, and the Catholic is Dutch-based.
Okay.
So if you send your kids to a Catholic school, they are going to be bilingually taught until the fourth grade, and then it transitions into primarily Dutch. Crazy. So if you hear me speak Dutch, I sound like a European. I've been speaking Dutch my whole life. Like the system is so good. Like part of our education system here, most kids come out of school speaking 3 to 4 languages.
Wow, that's awesome.
Fluently.
Yeah.
Like my kids now are diving into the French, and it's forcing me to now also learn and work on my French, because we live on a dual island. But for example, I speak fluent Spanish, fluent Dutch, fluent English, and a Caribbean dialect. Just
Wow.
fluent, written and spoken. Like, and I don't even process things. I don't translate in my head.
No,
Entonces,
yeah, I get you. I understand that. Yeah.
entonces, cuando estás hablando español, me habla español. No me estás explicando en inglés. No me hace la traducción.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but it's part of our education system. So our kids grow up multilingual, and so you either choose English-based curriculum, and then you would go more into the Adventist and the Methodist settings, like England, Methodist, and then the Dutch would be the predominantly Catholic schools, and that is then outside of the public schools. So if you want to send your kids to a secular school, you could either send it to the public schools that are secular, but somehow those government public schools are just, they're no good, unfortunately. Yeah. So you will have to pay a little bit extra to send your child to a Catholic school. It's not the $1,000, but it's a bit more, the uniforms and stuff like that. And then you have the private secular schools, which not religion based at all, and that's really expensive. The Catholic schools are relatively good. I went to a Catholic based school, but me myself, I am scientifically literate. The nature of the beast is being skeptical. So you grow out eventually of these ideas. But most people who are just busy with their regular lives and going through the process, I believe in God. It's tradition, always normal. They don't stop and think about it. And then you have generation after generation till we have Kyrie Irving and and the likes claiming these things, like confusion.
Well, that just shows you, and I wasn't aware of Black Hebrew Israelite or Hebrew Israelites until I started seeing them on YouTube in 2014. I mean, and I'm sure they were on before that, but it shows you how fast it really is growing.
And we were fighting this stuff in these YouTube streets because it was just crazy. 12 Tribe Shots, all these things, and to have it mainstream now, it's so deflating.
Well, it's amazing because, like I said, I didn't pick up on it, and I was interested because I knew my background. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. I was like, this is a group of people exactly almost mirror image of the way I grew up, minus the some of their doctrine. I mean, we weren't, it wasn't it certainly wasn't
black supremacist doctrine. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that is a black, but I'm saying the way I grew up, it was a mixed multitude, right? I mean, it wasn't like you couldn't come if you were black or whatever, but they were considered Gentiles, but they were also grafted in type of a doctrine, right? So so that's what got me interested, and I started watching, and one thing led to another. But it's crazy to see that from when I would tell people, I'd be talking, I say, yeah, there's this group in there. What? It's crazy to see how it went from that to now people are hearing about it, and now these stars are on Instagram or whatever, or it's in music, and it's just like it's just, I'm like, wow, this is really, I mean, YouTube, because they've been around obviously a lot longer. In New York, people knew about them, but YouTube gives them access to everybody.
Yeah, when I saw that on YouTube, I was just, like getting to the community, and then YouTube started hitting you with the algorithm, and then Hebrew Israelites, Real Black, 12 Tribe Charts, and I look at some of these things. Again, being from the Caribbean, I fully understood, okay, this makes no sense. The Haitians are one group and the Jamaicans are one group. No, that don't work so. Confused. So it was clear to me early on that it didn't make no sense, but it just kept getting traction and keep getting traction. And then look, they were actually in the Caribbean, right here in St. Martin, in their purple garb, in the middle of our town, proclaiming that the same stuff. We're all going to hell because we didn't accept Jesus Christ. In the middle of the Caribbean, condemning women for having shorts and slippers on. It's like, what do you think people are wearing in the Caribbean? It's 35 degrees all year round. Like, stop, like Celsius.
Yeah, I got you.
30 degrees. It's summertime. Like, it's always summer. Like, what do you expect people to wear? And this is the reason you get the hurricanes. And most of the people in my community were watching like, who are these people? And I was like, oh, you mean Hebrew Israelites were in St. Martin? And they're looking at me like, you know what these people are? Like, yeah, I live in these YouTube streets. They're completely crazy.
They said that the Caribbeans already have a version of Hebrew Israelites, and it's called Rastafarian.
Yeah. You're right. We have the original Hebrew Israelites in the Caribbean. You're absolutely right. The Rastafarians are the precursors of the Hebrew Israelites. Well, you're right.
I mean, and what you're saying is,
they say they from Israel and all that. The different documents, they go by rules of the Old Testament and shit.
You're right, Gullah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Your Old Testament, Comforter. Israel. Yep, you're right. You're right. Conquering tribe of Judah. Yes, they're the conquering tribe of Judah. Yes.
Yep, and the women can only wear skirts and all that.
Yep.
Especially if you like
long skirts, Boba Shanti. Yeah. Boba dread. Yep, you're right. You're right, Gullah. Yeah, we have the precursor right here in the Caribbean.
Well, and to piggyback off what you're saying, Cedric, is I didn't see him here, and I'm in New Orleans area. I didn't see him here. Now, what is it? IUIC? They might have been here, and I just didn't know it. Like, you don't, when you don't know, so you don't pay attention. But like within the last 2 weeks, I walked past a camp, a ISUPK camp, and that was the first time I saw them around. Like, and I was like, I even chatted with them for a few minutes, but yeah, I mean, the YouTube is just, and YouTube, and now you have celebrities that are, are sports figures and what have you that are promoting it or believing it.
I mean, in New Orleans, how could you be like, Hebrew Israelites, and you still got like voodoo culture, being passed down like through the culture, even through like commercial culture, people know about voodoo roots, African roots, and even like that, you got a place like Congo Square. Like, how could you think you Hebrew Israelites, living in Louisiana?
Yeah.
Yeah, Gullah, you're cracking up a bit.
Yeah, I didn't catch all of that. I know you talked about Congo Square and voodoo and what have you, but I wasn't.
Gullah had some pictures of, he was to a festival. And you know what was so cool? I'm looking at what's going on in New Orleans. It's the same stuff we do here, like the same type of festivals. It's just St. Martin though. Like, it's nothing special. We don't say we're doing Africa, but it is the same thing. It's like, man, look how rooted we are in our African traditions, now we carry Dutch passport, we speak English, we speak Dutch. Most people, you ask somebody from St. Martin where they're from or what are they will tell you they are Dutch national from St. Martin. They're completely disconnected to their African heritage. You know, when you hear it most, when we're discussing history, the slaves, those people, it's like, those people are us. Like, how do you make that disconnect? They speak about slavery as if it is not part and parcel of our history. It was something that happened to a group of people right here on this island, but not necessarily us. That disconnect is a proud power of a European education. That's all I can say. Again, we get European history. So I learned about Piet Hein and Peter Stuyvesant because they were Dutch heroes. Now, when you grow up and you get the global story, you understand that these were pirates and buccaneers who were actually criminals working for the government. Okay, and I'm supposed to glorify that as a student, Black student in the Caribbean. The whole slavery thing, the whole history, that aspect of history is not really taught by the Dutch. Now, they just came out today and say they're going to make an official apology next year for slavery, the 150th anniversary of the ending of slavery. So the Dutch are finally going to make an apology for their role in the whole transatlantic slave trade. But yeah, we're not educated about our history, but it is ingrained in how we live. And that's crazy to see. Like now I'm starting to be able to, understand it. Like we bring out the drums and we do not talk about the African root of it, or there's no connection directly while we do this because of our history. It is just something that we do. It is part of our culture, but there's no story behind it. And now I'm starting to see the connections. I'm starting, oh, damn, look here. That tradition or that aspect of African culture is being expressed and stuff like that. The voodoo and the voodoo is part and parcel of what we do here. But that too, right? The connection to Africa wasn't necessarily there until the last maybe 10 years that these aspects are coming to light and becoming more apparent. Well, again, to somebody like me, that's completely naive. And like Gullah, he knows his stuff his whole life maybe, but we're like cut off here in the Caribbean, so we have to look for it.
Yeah, that's real. That's real.
I was appreciating the video.
Anybody can hear me? Cedric is lying. And let me tell you why he's lying. Cedric and I carry European Caribbean. We will try our best to deny it, and we'll try our best to say no, it is not so. But if we really investigate the matter, even the America, even the Black Americans, they are European Americans. They're European Americans, or the Americans, European Africans.
Me, I call me Gullah, like I consider like what you would call an African American. I really consider, I rather call it US Africans or US Blacks, because you know what I'm saying. I consider all of us African American because Americas is two continents. The Caribbeans, if you look at old maps of what they were saying, what the Americas was, you know what I'm saying, you'll see nothing but the Caribbeans and South America.
No, Gullah, why I'm saying this is that because honestly, we're fighting now to regain our culture. And that's why we're in the Suda Killers. That's why we're for the Garfield. All of us in there are fighting to regain our culture. Because the culture that we got Our culture was taken away from us, and then we were given some a gumbo of other cultures to substitute it.
Yeah, and we was told that our own culture was the devil or some demonic or some shit like
Right.
that.
So therefore, what we are now is that we're fighting. And when people, I know that I come off hard, but I am allowed to come off hard because I'm ignorant. Ignorant is allowed to be loud, right? But I'm trying my best to find some culture. And we're going to West Africa, and we're looking around. And it's not that we want to kidnap or take away our West African culture and claim it as our own. But we want to find out who we are as a people, where we come from. Not this European bullshit that was given to us. That we know that is not ours. We know that is not ours. Right?
Mhm.
We're glad to dress up in a three-piece suit as an African. And you know that as somebody of African descent, when you dress up in a suit, or a five-piece suit, or a three-piece suit, vest, jacket, pants, combo belt, all of them bullshit. We're very uncomfortable in it because it's not our suits. And we're trying to find out where we come from. And our friend in the island, Cedric, know that too. Know that him know more about Dutch culture than African culture. He has been indoctrinated from the age of 3.
3 years old. I know more about European culture than about my own island. I do not know our history.
Right.
There is no formal history of the island being taught. Like, what happened here? What happened here? This neighborhood was for this. That area was done this. This plantation was that. We do not get that. We get something called staatsinrichting, which is social study, the state formation, and it is based on the Dutch monarchy, constitutional monarchy. That's what we learn. Like slavery, Columbus come, boom, the island, Hispaniola, St. Martin, boop, bap, slavery, boop, bap, bap, Pete Hang, that's history. South American history, I know Hernan Cortez, I know all these people that came, but we do not know nothing. Like, as a grown man, we learned that this island was called Soaliga, which means island of salt, by the Arawaks. But what Arawak look like, what Carib look like, nobody know.
Right? Because your island supposed to be a Carib island originally.
Yeah.
And the
Carib
Taínos. You have Caribs, you have Taínos.
Yeah.
I didn't know that their original name was Taínos until 10
I
years
Arawak.
ago. I grew up calling these people Arawaks, and there was no flipping Arawaks, there was Taínos.
And you grew up thinking that the Caribs were cannibals too?
We're cannibals. We're taught that the Caribs are cannibals that keep
Hey, said, you know why the Caribs get a bad rap? Even like in the old literature, when they say the Malathul Casas was calling them black and all that, he wasn't saying they was black because of their skin color. He was saying that because the Caribs were more like they wasn't as friendly as the Arawaks. You know what I'm saying? The Arawaks was kind of like more docile, like more friendly people to the Spaniards. They were like kind of pushovers. But the Caribs, that was more like, what I'm saying, they used to, like, even before the Spanish came, they used to fuck up the Arawaks and shit, like come in and grab them, like go to war with them and shit. You know what I'm saying? They were more warlike.
Yeah, that is the narrative or the history we learned too, that the Caribs was a much more roaring type of people, and they used to attack the Arawaks frequently. So the first encounter with the Spanish wasn't a very friendly one, because they encountered the Caribs first, so they let those archers go on them.
No. The only thing I know about the Arawaks and the Jamaicans coat of arms, COAT of arms, there's 2 Arawak people and a crocodile. And the Arawak girl is topless and she's in a grass skirt. And the Arawak man is in a grass skirt too. And they tell you that they were the first people And anything the English found, they took back to England. So they had like Arawak artifacts. There's none in Jamaica. When you went to Arawak Museum, there is pictures of the artifacts. There was an Arawak Museum in before you reach Spanish Town, where they showed it was just pictures. When you ask, where are these artifacts? All of them in the London Museum.
Yep.
All of the artifacts. If you go in the Caribbean islands, any artifact they find, they take it back to them country.
Yeah.
And they claim it as their own. So they don't even give you the history.
We got a little thing there that they call a museum, and it is mostly from archaeological digs that were done in recent years. So the last 10, 15, 20 years. Everything older than that, arrowheads and pottery and those type of things, all of it is in the Netherlands.
All of it gone. They took anything of value or anything. They take it back. They take it back to the, and it is called the mother country. People don't understand, that when you're in the Caribbean, you are aligned to the mother country. That means your country is not even a mother country, Jamaica is not a mother country. The mother country is 10 hours on a plane away, 6,000 miles away. That is the mother country.
Shit, Jamaica was an island of interest. They was fought over. Shit, it was originally taken over by the Spanish, then it got taken over by the British. During the 13-year wars. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, them Europeans were consistently warring on these islands. Like we speak English on this island, right? But one part of the island is French and the other part is Dutch. The French side, based on their political structure and how the French do things, there is a much more presence of France on the French side of the island. The Dutch had a much more laissez-faire relationship. Certain aspects, again, of rule are in place. So most of us speak fluent. Well, most of us should know how to speak Dutch. It's far less by some and more by others, but conventionally, both sides of the island we speak English, and that is a testament to the history. Island was held by Spanish, by English, by the French, by the Dutch, and back and forth, because these islands were their playgrounds during their colonial expansion years.
Yeah.
So
do Saint Martin have any connections like political connections with Guyana?
We have a lot of Guyanese living on the island. Guyana is one of those South American countries that is considered Caribbean, for example. And you have, for example, Cuba and the Dominican Republic, which is considered South American. Really strange, but that is the dynamic. So we have a lot of Guyanese and both African and East Indian Guyanese on the island.
What they call them, coolies. People.
No, they got coolies. Those are the Douglas. The Douglas are Indian black mixes
and African mix. Yeah.
So
that's like
Trinidad
and Tobago.
Yeah, we have black people from Guyana. We have the Indian East Indians that were brought over by the English and given a superior position in the country over the blacks. So it's
crazy.
The racial turmoil that goes on in Guyana, for example, between the Indians and the black, was created by the European, brought in the Indians and gave them a status above the African, while the African was there first by means of slavery. So there are still these.
Did you get the Chinese too? We got the Chinese, the Indians.
The Chinese and Indians. They kind of came in at the same time. Like they was bringing them in at the same time.
Yeah, no, we have a East Indian population and a Chinese population on the island, but that is recent history. They're mostly commercial enterprises. Somehow, the Chinese seem to own all the supermarkets and the Chinese restaurants, as they do throughout the Caribbean, and the Indians are predominantly in electronics and jewelry. how these dynamics and monopolies establish themselves is something that I keep thinking about it, and I don't see how it was established. But of course, I keep making the reference to as Black people, as we were brought to these islands in bondage, right? Uh, Colonialism, slavery was over, and people that were in a deficient position from the beginning had to work their way up. All these, and again, with all the deficiencies of lack of culture, lack of identity, all these other ethnic groups, when they migrate with their culture intact and with the support and backing from their country back home. So they come to establish themselves economically. It's different than us who were in the prison, had everything brought in to us, and all of a sudden the prison guards just left the prison.
No,
Just left the prison.
you guys had the Jews too? We had the
Sorry?
Jews in Jamaica, the Jewish population.
Well, coincidentally today when my daughter came out of gymnastics class, two in my eyes European looking in the kids, you see that they are starting to grow their side lock, and they had on the little small hat.
The Amica.
So they are Orthodox Jews. There is a old plaque on a building at the foot of Phillipsburg, which says this was the old Jewish cemetery. But in Curacao, for example, which was the big island of the 6 Caribbean islands, Dutch Caribbean islands, you have the Henriques, you have the Maduros,
we have the Henriques.
Those are
the Portuguese Jews.
Portuguese Jews, especially in Curacao. Mind you, the dialect that is spoken in Curacao is a Portuguese African dialect based on the Portuguese having had this relationship with West Africa for so long. And when we exploring these histories, is again to see that these people call themselves Hebrew Israelites. I got Jewish contestant in Curacao. When you look at the Jews, you can see that they are not African. They control the finances, right? The banking system, the Henriques, the Capriles, the Hernandez. These are the people in the banking institutions. These were the people, the Da Costas, who were the first politicians in these Antilles, in these islands. And they have a segregated Jewish community in Curacao, right? That's a fact, right?
We have 13. Jamaica had some of the richest Jewish family, and we can start like the Matalan. They were like Eli Matalan. That's his name. Was the head of the Scotia Bank in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Right. The Jews have always been strong in finance. I don't know if it's genetic.
Well, if you look at the history and how people stay together, and from generation to generation, father to son, mother to daughter, they passed on their enterprise.
It's cultural conditioning. It's not really genetic. It's like I just looked at a documentary about it, a scientific documentary about it. But it's like they were saying, like even like with Jew, how like they say Jewish people, how they super smart, and Chinese people are super smart. It's because they set up to be trained like early age to do it. Like how they know, like they say Jamaicans are genetically born to run fast. It's not really that they're genetically born to run fast. It's just like the culture, you know what I'm saying? Even like Jamaicans, you know what I'm saying? They don't have really like a school bus system. So motherfuckers gotta run to school or walk to school and shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's the cultural conditioning that sets you up like that. Even like
it's not only that,
Kenya.
it's a system. The Jamaican Athletic Association have a system.
Exactly. I was going to tell you that.
The
They have a
system is that
20-year-old or 30-year-old program.
Everybody runs. Everybody runs. So guess what? Because everybody runs, and when they identify somebody who runs fast, they're stirred. They're pointed in that direction. And as a result of that, you have the pick. So if you have 100,000 girls who run, You must can find 10 fast girls in that.
Yeah. That's
And
like
those,
the
It's
Dominican
like
Republic
this is
with
like
baseball.
this is like this like the South Asians that come over here to the United States. All of them motherfuckers go to medical school. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
But
saying?
it, like that's the plan. That's the family mindset that this is what we're walking towards, and all efforts are being made to achieve that goal. You know, we are much more liberal in terms of what our children are supposed to achieve and these type of things. Like we have, do your best, whatever you want to be, it's all good. No, these people, no. You're going to study mathematics, you're going to do, and their kids accept that much more as being part of their culture. We, like, I'm a scientist. My oldest daughter is a professional dancer. My oldest son gone into business. You know what I mean? Like
Hey,
they were forced into
Cedric.
sciences.
Hey,
Yeah.
Cedric. I dated a Amharic girl, a Habesha girl from Ethiopia for 3 years. Everything, we had a perfect relationship. You know what I'm saying? Everything was cool. Only reason we spread up because of school. You know what I'm saying? She had to go to school.
Yeah, exactly. Got to. You don't have a choice. Like my kids know that too. Like going to college is not an option. That's like that's a must. You don't have that choice.
the thing about it is culture, and then it has been proven that households with books in there, if you have books in your household, your children will do better in school. They don't have to necessarily be reading the books, but they show that household with books in it, the children do better in school. It, and
I tend to agree, but well, you have to be engaging with the books too, and it's the parents. You
yeah,
know, when you see the parents reading, and or you just dive in a book for some information and stuff like that, your children tend to pick it up. So yeah, we employ reading from small. Like my youngest daughter now, she grabs a book automatically at bedtime to read. You know, and so you could see that her reading skills, and not only her reading skills, her comprehension, these gray areas start to come in much more sooner. They start to engage with the material. So you move from black and white to gray area to nuance much faster by engaging in storytelling, you know, and have them that back and forth dialogue. What do you feel about that? You think that was nice? Well, if it were nice, but the other person would, so you create that processing of the story with them, which helps them now in that mental exercise, that moving those brain cells. Because contrary to popular belief, the brain is a lazy muscle. It
mm,
functions on automatic pilot because that thinking thing costs too much energy.
yeah, it used too much energy. But I'll tell you a
Yes.
story. I got my son. I went into the bookstore up here, and there was this Grimm story tale book, right? It's a thick book with about 800 pages. I got him that when he was like 9 years old, and it had different fairy tales in it. And people were saying, "Why I get it?" Said, because I get him interested in reading,
Yeah, the
and fairy
brothers Grimm.
tales, the Brothers Grimm, right? And he read that, and then I got him a couple more books. And by the time he was 11, I got him the Iliad and the Odyssey because it was cheap. When you go into Barnes and Noble, sometimes you see some books and they're very cheap, like $10 and $12.
Mm-hmm.
And I got him the Iliad and the Odyssey. And we read that together because I got 2 copies. And because he's in Jamaica and I'm here, have to find a way to, find things in common. So we read that together and then we discussed the stories about the Iliad and the Odyssey. And he read that from he was like 12 years old. So you got more books and more books and more books. Because after a while, like he'd watch a movie and he said, "Daddy, that story is based upon such and such." And I said,
Yes.
"No, most stories are based upon the quest. It's
Mhm.
more stories. And when you watch more movies, the Star Wars and the Harry Potter, you're going to realize that they're boring because you already read the original story that they're based
Listen,
upon."
listen. You want to really like. That's why I just keep telling my kids like, and they understand it too. They discovered it too. Yo, the movie came as good as a book, dude. Yo, the
Yeah.
movie ain't as good as a book. You gotta read the book, dude. The movie cannot illustrate the things that your imagination can produce when you read the book. Like, and my kids, like, if they see a movie come out, they just check to see if the book there first. So they prefer to read a book than to watch a movie, because the movie always a watered down version of what the book is.
Right.
And once you discover that, oh my God.
No, because they're trying to compress what an entire book is selling in 2 hours.
Yeah. And the
And
book,
and the book, the movie is far better than the book. All the time.
and helping them to engage in reading too, especially in this day and age with these TikTok and these short, quick things, it is important that that they have something that can hold their interest, hold their attention, so that they can really learn. Most of us got the short attention span is the reason people can't learn.
Yeah.
Like, how you can watch something for 5-6 hours? Go ahead.
Somebody play some back.
They're dropping off.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but even when you look at it, TikTok, the average TikTok video is 15 to 30 seconds. And you look at it, and all of them is the same. And you said, this is what they're doing. This
Yeah.
is a manipulation of the
And
mind.
what
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Gullah.
who playing that back? Somebody playing something back. Who?
Not me.
Not me either.
Careful. Check if you have more than one window open.
Chef's here.
Chef is there?
Yeah, Chef, you finally reached, brother?
Yes, sir.
Who playing the recording back like that?
Probably was Chef.
Yeah, Chef. Chef came in.
What's going on, everybody? Can y'all hear me?
We good.
Yeah, we can hear. We're good. We are good, Chef. I was hoping that you'd be on 2 or 3 days ago
Mm-hmm.
when the conversation was hot.
Mm-hmm.
Because
What about it?
nothing concrete, Corey. Although we have somebody who is on the other side in the name of Sheffrin, we have to come to some middle ground.
Okay.
I believe that we have to come to some middle ground with this thing, and because we have 3 arguments now, 3 or 4 arguments. We have Bobby Banger's argument. We have Dr. Reggie's argument, and then we have your argument. All right. Now, one thing may be right, 2 things can't possibly be right, but 3 things definitely not right.
Okay.
Right? So my thing is this, right? Because as I said on today, I might not have been eloquent with it, but no, you have to be establishing gatekeepers. You know those persons who stand up in front of Buckingham Castle with the red suits and the hat on. Because not everybody should be able to get entry in the community. But we have to be on one accord to decide what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. Right? But no, we have to get Garfield thing out of the way first. Because that in itself is part of this argument also.
Yeah.
Because what it is saying is that did the Europeans stole Christianity from the black man? That's the underlying current of that, People not understanding what it is, Because if you ask Jabari who the Egyptians are, he's going to tell you that they are the black people who were removed from Egypt, and they're the origins of the religion that we practice worldwide. So this argument is a continuation. It's the same argument. It might appear to be a different argument, but it's slightly fragmented. And it's the same argument we have been having for years of who the Egyptians are. At one point, we're told that we were the Egyptians in the beginning of the conscious community. Right? And if you even
That
follow,
argument goes.
yeah, if you even follow the Hebrews, because where did the Hebrews learn to become Hebrews? Were they Hebrews before they went into Egypt? Did they get their religion after coming out of Egypt? When did the Hebrews get the Ten Commandments?
Egypt.
After exiting Egypt.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So this one place is tied up in a lot of our thinking as Black people,
Mhm.
right? Because who was trained in the ways of Egypt? Moses.
Moses.
Mm-hmm.
Who got the Ten Commandments?
Moses.
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 Right in Egypt.
Right in Egypt.
Mhm.
So this Egypt argument has to be cleared up in the community. Because it has been the cornerstone of many people thinking in the community.
That's a fact. All right, so I would say you say Jabari is that issue has to be cleared up first. You say Unc has a side, Reggie has a side, Jabari has a side.
Yeah, and yeah.
And I
Arthur,
have a side.
and
Well,
you have a side.
I will put all of them on the same side.
You can't do that though.
And I wouldn't do
You
that.
can't do that though.
But I have to.
No.
But I have to because
No, you can't do that.
I know I know my target. Now
You can't do
y'all
that,
might
though, Chef.
think but see, Cedric, you can't define my target for me.
Okay. Define your target. Let's see if you can put everybody in the same camp.
No, for you, it might not be your target. You dig what I'm saying? So you might could never see what I'm shooting at. But I feel as though for me, for what I'm trying to hit, all these niggas is right there in my bullseye.
That's what I asked. What is the target you're trying to hit? Let me see if they're all in the same, if they're all lined up.
Now, for me, if I was to push Reggie towards Jabari, I don't think y'all would have too much of an issue with it, right?
Well, I would though, because from jump, Reggie was the first one that came out, and Ansar Neto next to Jabari said he has a problem with those who are now taking a Kemet and trying to religiousize it and trying to do exactly what Jabari is doing.
He a hypocrite though. I think Reggie be fronting, man.
Yeah, and that's right on point because
even with them cows, man, he don't know what he talking about with them cows. Like even like the cattle coat started in like the eastern, like the western deserts or whatever. You know, so that the coat did, but them cows, a lot of different people had them cows. People up north had them cows too.
Mm-hmm. The cows was domesticated in Asia first.
Yeah, even the ones like the some of the Nilo-Sahareans had. They used to tame wild cows, and then so some of them domesticated cows got loose. They mixed their cow, they mixed the cows with the herd with the domesticated cows.
But that's the only way. That's the only way that you can get the African domestic cattle is by breeding them with the Asian cattle. That wild cattle was bred with the Asian domesticated
Asian cattle, yeah, and you had two different Asian cattle that came in at two different times, and then like that wild cattle, you know what I'm saying? It was tame, but it wasn't domesticated. They just kind of like herded them along and kind of hunted them at the same time. Same thing like some of our ancestors did with the Barbary sheep in the Western Sahels and shit.
Are you saying the cattle is like the Mustangs in the Americas? The
Pretty
wild
much.
horses in the Americas.
Yeah, you let them have a certain amount of wildness to it, and you just follow it as game. But for instance, now with Reggie, like I said, if I was to push Reggie over there, most people would. It'd be a little bit of pushback, but then after a while, is that y'all won't let me push all the way over there. Now, I'm gonna say this. All of these Egyptian dudes, right? They are different versions of Christians. I think y'all will understand that from that perspective. These they are just varying denominations of the same religion to me, right? So, you know, you got your Baptist, you got your Jehovah's Witness, and you got your Seventh-day Adventists, right? Now, all of them are going to argue with each other and differ over things, but the core of their belief system is still intact, right? Now, we have on record saying that the Egyptians are our ancestors, right? Now, he's on record saying this.
How
right?
many years ago? How many years ago? Because a man can change his mind.
Yeah, listen, he definitely can change his mind. Now, but he says he never taught that. So you see the difference? He gets on here and he vehemently said, I ain't never teach no shit like that. And he goes on and try to make it seem like people are just putting words in his mouth, right? So that's one. We got him on record saying that the Egyptians are our ancestors.
Chef, we fell out, bro. Like everybody be saying, like Chief X the first nigga on record and go live with the shit to say the shit. But bro, I was saying this shit to niggas like back then, bro. I just like, I ain't want to embarrass niggas and shit. I was telling niggas back then, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, like arguing. That's why we fell out with them niggas. I was telling Ngozi, like doing that little Egypt on trial conference and shit. I was in the back chat. I was texting Ngozi like, bro, tell these niggas, dog. You know what I'm saying? Being like, playing the politics and shit. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I understand it said get your money, but still, these dudes tripping. I even told Chief X. Chief X cussed me out when I told him I saw it with Pseudo back in the day. When he used to go live on Facebook. He cussed me out. I told Chief X first. He was like, no, he said, no, I don't understand linguistics and so. He was taking up. That's when he was rolling with Unc them and shit. I told him then.
So think about it. All right. If you on record saying that Egyptians are our ancestors, right? Then you're also on record. Every show you get, you still find a way to put Dr. Ben and Sheikh Anta Diop. Now we know what them niggas was saying. So if you still are promoting those dudes, how could you be saying something far different from what they were saying? And then you twist their arguments and try to act like they wasn't saying what they were saying. That's confusing as hell. So Dr. Ben and them definitely taught Egyptians was black. Simple and plain. Ain't no way around it. Now to try to argue it ain't no black people. You understood what Dr. Ben was saying. You roll with it. So you understand the context of what a black person is. So when we're using it, you understand what we're talking about. You know the conversation. You still promote Dr. Ben and them. So you know the conversation.
Like for me personally, like, you know what I'm saying? I fuck with Dr. Clark. I believe Dr. Clark was honest. He just believed what he was, taught and shit. But Dr. Ben, like I never fuck with Dr. Ben. You know what I'm saying? I even like kind of find like, when I started finding out about him and shit, I always fuck with Clark anyway, cause my grandfather fucked with Malcolm X and shit. So I always knew about Clark. You know what I'm saying? So, Dr. Ben, when them dudes came around, even like I was suspicious then when I first heard his story and shit, and he was talking about his background. Like I think he lied about who his identity is. That's my own thing. That nigga is not no fucking Better Israel dude. I got
Right.
friends that's Better Israel from Ethiopia.
He don't
Them
look
niggas
like
don't
those
they don't
people.
look shit like Dr. Ben.
Mhm.
Even if he
Dr.
was
Ben
mixed.
West African. He is not no Egyptian, none of those things. He's a West
No,
African.
He's not East African.
I even had a girlfriend back in the day. You know, her mother was Ethiopian, like she was, you know what I'm saying, her mother was Amhara, but her daddy was from he was from Guinea-Bissau. Even, you know what I'm saying, even by them, you know what I'm saying, them two different distinct groups mixing, you could still tell she had a little bit of the East African shit in her. You know, she looked like she was a Fulani or something, you know, how they look kind of mixed. Oh, you look Fulani.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You could still tell she got some of that, you know what I'm saying, East African back migration shit in her. You know what I'm saying?
But it will be argued that if we're questioning Dr. Ben ethnicity, we are relying upon lookership. If a man tell you who he is,
I'm fine with that.
no, but if a man tell you who he is,
but it's not really even lookership, stupides, bro. Like in biology, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a reality. So certain
no.
clusters of certain people look different.
A while ago we were read earlier today we were read that genetics does not give indication at the phenotype. That phenotype and genetics are not related.
Nah, genome activates phenomes, bro. Like I don't know who told you that shit. That's some rhetoric. That's some rhetoric they be going around.
Gola, don't go down that. We can.
There's some rhetoric that be going around. But with adaptation, all that shit, genes and all that shit.
That's genetic. That's genetic.
Yeah,
Cedric, are you on?
I'm right here. I'm listening.
Cedric, can you give us a brief synopsis of what you read earlier today about
they didn't
phenotype?
explain. Hold on, they didn't explain it.
You cannot solely take genetics, look at the genetics, and say something about somebody phenotype.
That's when it's by itself.
You're gonna take Somalians. You're gonna take Somalians as a whole, the group. You're gonna look at the genetics. They all same. You're gonna look at the people. They go from dark to almost white. All Somalian, all same genetics. They're gonna go from dark to almost white.
I'm not talking about the skin color, Cedric.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. When we look, that's why I'm very specific about how I'm expressing myself. That's why I say Somalians as a group.
All right, but if we look at Somalians have certain genetic traits that the Chinese would not have, right?
Yes, there are certain genetic markers, but you cannot say that you cannot take those genetic markers and isolate to talk about the skin color. That's the problem. It's like I was saying, you're gonna take the genetics. They're gonna all have the similar genetics.
I'm not even talking about.
Go from dark to light. But that don't make that group equal to us. Like
I'm not even talking about skin color. I ain't even talking about them features. You know what I'm saying? A Somalian and a Yemenese Jew have similar genetic continuity.
Yes.
And it don't have nothing to do with the skin color. It's the skull type. It's other
agreed.
It's other shit other than skin
that's
color.
why I was making that disclaimer.
You know
and that's what he was referring to in the last article.
All right. So let me say something. What we need in this community is when you bring up information and read it. Because when you read that information as it was read today, it means something totally different than what is explained right now to the average person. And the average person is like when Reggie brought the pictures up with red cows and blue cows and showing arrows of different people coming in at different times. And then you explain it back to him. He wants to question your explanation as to you don't have any comprehension. Because when people read things, it has to be a consensus on what this thing is actually saying.
Yes.
Because your comprehension can be totally different than 10 other people who read the same piece of information.
Well, Why you have Soupy is there is you have a specific piece of text that is not open to comprehension. It is the fact that when certain people read it, they lack the tools to accurately understand what's being said. That's why I was trying to break things down a little bit. But again, in this community, we so stuck on skin color and them is us that we can't slow down the conversation. That's what I keep saying, and I'm gonna say it again. Take the whole continent, all Africans. West Africans have a certain phenotype, a certain genetic makeup, and a certain phenotype that is not how you say homogeneous. There is a range in that. Height, color,
It's
texture,
arranged in
hair,
all stuff.
physical
even
features,
overlap
but
too.
they fall within one particular group though. There's a similarity and a diversity within that. The
Right.
same thing with an East African.
Mhm.
They could have an East African that's very dark, they want a very light, but they are general physical features. They are morphology that you can identify them and say, well, they're East African. Maybe you wouldn't be specifically say somebody is Ethiopian or Somalian or Eritrean, right? You mightn't be able to pinpoint it to that extent, but you can look and see East African.
Cedric, let me use this example, please. I asked me correct me. I need you and Golo to correct me if I'm wrong. If I get an Irishman DNA from today, and I get a Nubian man DNA, and I looked at both of these DNA, and then let's say I didn't know what DNA is what DNA. Let's say we're doing a blind test, a double blind test, and we're comparing these two DNAs, and we're matching up to the existing people of Earth. And when I matched the DNA, I found that DNA A matches to the Irishman and DNA B matches to the Nubian. Based upon people that live in the country today, what color would I say the Irishman has? What color would I say DNA A has? Let's say DNA A was the Irishman.
I don't get what you mean.
Skin color. I found two DNAs and I matched up both
You talking
DNAs.
about a DNA test?
Yes. And I matched up both DNAs.
You ain't gonna see no color. You're gonna see traits and results.
Yeah.
No. Let me start back over color. Let's say I have DNA A and DNA B. And I tested DNA B and DNA A with the population of the world. And DNA A came back to be most representative of Irish people. And DNA B came back and be most representative of Nubian people. If I was supposed to look on both A and B DNA, and somebody asked me, what was the most likely color of DNA A? What would you say?
The only reason you would be able to answer that in color terms is because you would have the Irish there, right? If you say Irish, if you say the Irish, you already have a context, and you could say Irish is A, thereby I would assume more white, more European. But take the two DNAs, the distinct A and B. You can see the haplogroups are clearly different. Without any context, I ask you which one is which color. Would you be able to answer me?
If I have something to compare it to.
No. I say we take in genetics alone, put it on the table. You have two distinct groups. You could see the haplogroups different.
Right.
Can you, without having a background of geography, would you be able to tell me the phenotypes of these individuals?
No. I have to have something to compare it to.
That's number one. Now I'm gonna give you another question. I'm gonna take all my children, 7 of them, put them on a row.
Right.
We're gonna take my Y chromosome I mean, put it by my 3 boys.
Mm.
You're gonna
All
see
the
the
children,
same.
no, all the
You're gonna
children
see
is the
this.
same. All the
You're
children
gonna
is
see
the
the.
same mother.
You're
No,
gonna
all the
see this.
children is
You
the
go.
same mother and father.
Wait. No, that's the nuance in the conversation. You see, you're gonna look at my Y chromosome and you're gonna measure it by the boys. You're gonna say they got the same haplogroup. And I want to ask you, look at your father. What are the phenotypes of those young men? And you're gonna tell me they all look like me? They all carry the same skin tone as me? No. Each one different. Come from almost pure Caucasian to just black, just like me. And everything in between.
Yeah,
You cannot use the genetics that we're saying to talk about skin color.
Cedric, each of them children gonna have some type of feature of yours besides the skin color. It's gonna be some shit that look like you.
You can see that they're my kids. You can see it. So that would put us back in the totality of the one group. But you cannot, and this is what we were trying to make the point. You cannot look at genetics in isolation and talk about phenotypes.
No, you gotta have other shit. You gotta have archaeology. You gotta have
there you go.
Different. You have to have. That's the reason I know like certain shit, like the certain markers and for populations, like like a certain marker in the population just tells you, okay, saying this cluster of people was passed through these people, they made it. You know what I'm saying? People with these mutations made it with this cluster gene pool. You know what I'm saying? And based on the human migrations, and you know what I'm saying, and that also works with archaeology, and you know what I'm saying. Exactly. It ain't even just it's not even just the the haplogroup. You gotta have the autosomal DNA. It's like with Queen T, you know what I'm saying? Queen T, like they know her haplogroups, but her autosomal might be all different type of shit. You know what I'm saying? Yep. It's like if they dug me up, you know what I'm saying? They say, oh shit, like my Y haplo group is G. You know what I'm saying? I got G2. If they dug me up, if I was, you know what I'm saying, if I was back then or some shit, they'd be like, oh shit, so you just can't assume I was Caucasian or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Just because
hold on, can you hear me?
My father's grandfather comes from Lebanon.
Yeah, we can't hear you. No, we can't hear you. Yo, y'all can't hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I mean, Gullah just said something, but I just introduced the inconsistency of the mummies that they found about Queen T. So how do they know who she was if the mummy is not even a real mummy?
I gotta read that source first.
Yeah, see what I'm saying. But you already know I did that, Gullah.
That's not even my point, though.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't even want to interject that particular mummy into the conversation, knowing that it's a suspect.
That's your conversation, brother.
No. It don't have nothing to do with me. It got something to do with the article that you said you hadn't read yet. This ain't me.
Since you're not talking about
that, the source is the wiki article that Chief X and everybody interjected in last week. That's what the source is. The same source that he used.
So, can I ask you a question? All right, let me ask another question. Since we're not talking about that, and I don't want to come off point. Let's ask another question. When we're talking about the Egyptian, and this is an important question.
Right.
This is a very important question. What time period are we talking about? Because time is important. We're not going back 50,000 years ago, because 50,000 years ago, everybody was the same person. Or 60,000 years ago.
No, everybody wasn't the same person 50,000 years ago. You had different clusters of different people.
In terms of Homo sapiens
then. You had different diversity then.
Yeah, in terms of Homo sapiens, you had Homo this and
even then, like 50,000 years ago, that's like when you look at genetic markers and gene pools, that's like pretty recent. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Okay.
You had different
humans are a mixture of all those other
sorry to use that terminology. Because the question I want to ask, when we are talking about the Egyptians, before the introduction of the Persians, when the Egyptians were Egyptians, I don't matter if they had a mixture of 10 million different people, when they were Egyptians, what time period are we talking about? How far are we going back? 10,000 years? Did Egypt exist 10,000 years ago?
When we talk about Egypt, right, we have to make a separation if we're talking about the area or the culture?
Yeah, the
Because
culture.
the area,
The culture.
the area itself was always a gateway back and forth, right, for
Into,
different people.
right.
So
It was a
there was
language.
never a homogeneous phenotype in that area.
No,
Never.
But you did.
There
But
was
you
never
did
a
have like.
homogeneous phenotype.
Yeah,
So
you're
when we
right.
say how the Egyptians look, we are asking a question as if we are talking about an isolated group of people that had no contact with the outside world. So we start to do like we thinking about Chinese, because
Okay, well,
we
Cedric,
Westerners
let's
see
try to
these people
do this.
No,
as
no.
a
Okay.
monolithic
Okay,
group.
let's just say we talking about from the time they started to call themselves kings, the pharaonic period. Let's just start there.
That's a
At
With
mix.
the
that
kingship
point
part,
in time, there was
That's a
a
with the
mixture.
kingship part
mixture
of it.
of people.
They had a
And,
mixture of people
and
then. Like
See,
even
hold on,
No, I'm not talking
no.
about the
See,
mixture of people. All right,
no.
since
It wasn't.
wait, hold on. It's my question. Let's go back now. All right. Let's not talk about Egypt, because Nakada is the father of Egypt or the mother of Egypt. The Nakadians. When we're talking about the Nakadians, how far can we go back?
you said in
I would say
Nakada.
maybe 4500 BCE.
okay, let me ask this
Nakada.
question. Do we understand how that the Homo sapiens sapien, that we are a mixture of all
But we
these
know,
different
we know, all of us know that. We know that, Cedric. We're talking about a specific culture. Nakada, the language, everything basically can be founded. We can go back to them. Where they're located
Whoever,
along the Nile.
but I'm gonna say this, Stupid. Even though we don't know like exactly, you know what I'm saying, it was some
No,
type
but
of
that's what 10,000 years.
whatever the proto language was,
Yes.
it was some type of Afroasiatic language, because
Yeah.
Is an Afroasiatic
I
language.
know that, but I want a time period,
But
because
you had
guess
different,
what?
but you also had you had Nilo-Saharan speakers in that area too. You had other Afroasiatic language members in that area, other than what Christopher Eric called North Uritic. You had North Uritic languages, you know what I'm saying, which is Proto-Chadic, Proto-Amazigh, and Proto-Egyptian and Proto-Semitic. You had
Right.
other Afroasiatic languages up north too, which is the Cushitic languages in the Red Sea Hills. You know what I'm saying? That, you know what I'm saying? That's what a lot of the C groups and the, you know what I'm saying, the Magi and the Beja groups and the Pangrave culture.
We'll call it Afro. Hold on, we'll call it Afro-Asiatic, but Afro-Asiatic is actually the umbrella name, because under Afro-Asiatic is the umbrella name, because under Afro-Asiatic you have different groups that fall.
But you still can break it down. You still can break the languages down in a tree, same way you do.
Hold on, if
like evolution on genetic tree. Some languages are more basal than others, and then you got different ones that are more related to each other than the other one is. You know what I'm saying?
No, because remember the day when I was talking to Ong, and Ong tried to jump on me with the language, saying that the Egyptians were Afro-Asiatic. They got the language from Ethiopia. And I'm saying, why you brought up language when Afro-Asiatic, you have about 6 or more language which fall under the term Afro-Asiatic. Egyptian is one of those languages.
Because they have common roots.
Yeah, that is unique to that area. But if it is Afro-Asiatic, it must have come from somewhere. If Egypt language is Afro-Asiatic, if the Egyptian, my thing is this, if the Egyptians spoke Afro-Asiatic, the language came from, the original root language came from somewhere else. It did not come from the Nile. It did not come from the Nile. The Nile, what do you call it? Nilo-Saharan or Nilo what? It's like
Nilo-Saharan, but according to certain languages, Nilo-Saharan, the Proto-Afro-Asiatic languages would have broke off of some type of proto-Nilo-Saharan language, because
Right.
Nilo-Saharan,
Well, hold
the
on.
Nilo-Saharan
Let me
language
ask.
in that area is like that. They the oldest group in that area. They older than Niger
Yeah,
Congo
yeah.
speakers.
But,
Well,
no, but
if
this,
it's a dead
this is what
language,
I'm
how do
saying.
y'all know where it comes from?
Hold on. Let me finish. This is what I'm saying. It's like in order for it to reach Egyptian language, right? It has to go through the Nilo-Saharan to the original group before Afro-Asiatic, then to Afro-Asiatic, then to Egyptian. You realize how many different steps it took to reach Egyptian? Because
Yeah,
the Nilo language is
but
like
the Nilo,
4 steps away
that's
from
too
the
far back.
Egyptian language.
The step before Egyptian languages is even out of the Afro-Asiatic language branches. You have to get to the North Uritic languages. The North Uritic languages.
You're even strengthening my point. That is almost like 5 steps. So the Egyptians had to take about 5 steps in languages before they spoke the language that the people in Kush spoke.
Oh yeah.
The
You probably
Kushites,
even had you probably even had
Oh
other
man.
you probably even had other languages that died out that won't even know about. You know what I'm saying? They
so,
come out of,
so,
you know what I'm
so,
saying,
so, so hold on,
proto
Gola.
branch.
You're saying more than 5 steps? Do you understand what I'm saying? Is that if we take 5 steps, it means
What's
that
your point? I don't even understand
my,
what your
no,
point, what you're going.
my point is that people like to bring up the language. And I'm saying to them, sir, the people in Kush and the people in Egypt spoke a language, although they were family, it is like a second cousin. Meaning for the last time they was related
Yeah,
directly
but they
through
also
a great,
related.
great,
They have a genetic
no, no,
community
no.
also by the way too.
I know that,
Yeah.
but the language that they have, I mean, the culture that they have, is the last time the culture was siblings. It was like four or five language step before. So it was
Yeah.
like the great grandmother. The last time me and you was brother and sister, it was through our great grandmother. So therefore, we have been so distinct a people. It's 4 language steps away. So we cannot be the same people. We can genetically be the same people, but culturally,
they different cultures under the same the
right,
same umbrella, but you got different
right.
cultures under
But
that.
the culturally 5 different steps away.
Yeah, they distinct. You know what I'm saying?
Separate, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you
Separate
say. They own distinct people. Yeah.
distinct culture 5 steps away. That means that the last time you and I were the same culture, it would
Yeah,
have been.
and that culture
All
that
right,
culture by
Gola,
being there, it overlaps with other cultures too. You know what
let
I'm
me
saying?
explain.
Even though it still remains its base. You know what I'm saying? Substratum culture, whatever that is.
The last time me and you directly related, Gola, is when we was coming over on the slave ship. True or false? And even then, we might not have been, because if we came from separate tribes, we might not have been
You
directly
said
related.
what?
The
What you
last
say?
time you and I were directly related could be considered
No,
siblings.
that's not true because people during the time of colonialism, you had
Was going back and
you
forth.
had people
So,
that was getting traded into the Americas and people getting
so,
traded into the
all right, so
Caribbean.
we can use the slave ships.
Yeah, because I got relatives in Jamaica. I'm Gullah Geech. I got people that went into the the Bahamas and shit too.
Yeah, probably that was a wrong example, but the last time the
Yeah,
Egyptians, the last time the Nakadans, because I when Reggie bringing up Nakada, the last time the Nakadans and the Kushites were directly related. When I mean directly related, they're cousins now. Your cousin is not a direct relation in terms of
you're right. You're right.
right?
No, and what you mean by when you say Kushites, are you talking about like the Kerma people, or are you talking about like Kushites, the Cushitic speakers of the Red Hill, or with a
No,
C?
I'm talking about the people who was also in the same geographic area who directly related to the Nubians. And even the Nubians.
You talking about the people of Kerma.
Right.
Them will be them Nilo-Saharians anyway. So
right.
you know
So the last time
they would be really a distant, you know what I'm saying, a distant, you know what I'm saying,
So therefore, although they occupy almost the same geographical area,
Yeah,
culturally,
but some
culturally they're
Nubians,
5 steps away, right?
but all Nubians wasn't Nilo-Saharan though. Some Nubians was Afro-Asian, was Cushitic speakers. You know what I'm saying? Some of them was Cushitic speakers who would be like,
Were they
Wait,
Afro-Asian?
wait. How you know what they were speaking about?
you
How
said
you
what?
know? How do you know what they were speaking if the language is lost? I'm kind of confused on how you making these
Based
assumptions
off
of
of
what
culture.
people speak.
These are what they call ethnic linguistic groups, bro. Based off
But the language is a
based
dead.
off
The language that
orthodoxy,
they speak. Hold
based
up.
off the
I'm just
based off
trying
the
to
culture,
understand something.
based off the
If the language is dead,
continuity and all that shit, bro. The experts are saying this, bro.
well, I'm
I
just
can
asking you, like, if the language is dead, how do you know what they were speaking at the time?
we don't know
I'm just
that.
trying to get I'm trying to get an understanding of
We
when
just
you're
know what
saying
part
that
of
some people. See, that's what I'm saying. You saying this like you saying this as if you actually know what they were speaking, but I'm asking you, how do you know
no,
if
I'm
they were
talking about
speaking a different language?
based off the people who we know who in those areas and still in those areas to this day, bro. You know what I'm saying?
But they don't speak the Egyptian language now.
I'm not talking about
They're speaking Arabic now.
I'm not even talking about that. Before Arabic, you had Cushitic languages in that area. The Beaver people are still there. And other groups who still that speak Afro-Asiatic languages still there.
Man, don't hold on. Don't take this like I'm trying to be funny or nothing, bro. I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. That's all. So you're saying this as if you know what these people spoke, and I'm just asking you, how do you know? Because it's
Based,
a dead language.
based off what
That's all I'm
based
asking.
off what the experts saying right now. That's how I know.
Well,
Based off
I've
based off
never heard of an expert
based
that
off
said they know what
archaeology.
languages that the Kushites spoke, and they know that they spoke a different language from the Egyptian. I've never heard anybody, any experts say that they know. They just said that the language is a dead language, and the only thing that
No,
you
they
can
don't.
do is
No,
just
I
read.
don't say that.
The only thing that you can do is just read the text. You cannot. They don't know what language they spoke. It's a dead language. So how can you suppose what language they were speaking if it's dead? That's all I'm asking.
We still can know. We can. It ain't. We don't. This don't mean you don't know what family the language would have possibly been part of based off of other you know what I'm saying, records and sources. Other than that, you know, so that's why I say you got to use different disciplines together to find it out. You just can't use one thing.
All right, that's all that's the only question I had. I mean, that answer wasn't sufficient enough for me. But if you could show me any type of documentation that show
I
that
will.
they
Hold
were
on. I will.
no, I'm just asking you if you could show me any type of documentation to show that the people in Karma were speaking a different language from the people in Lower Egypt at the time, then I would appreciate that. Because I don't think that anybody could show any type of language that they were speaking different from each other. At the time, it's a dead language. How do you know?
Can I ask Gullah a question? Gullah, were the Nubians and the Akkadians speaking the same language?
You said what now?
Were the Nubians and the people in Akkada, were they speaking the same language?
No, that wasn't.
No. Let me pass through to that question. Although they occupy the same space.
But if they live in the same area, they probably, you know what I'm saying, you know, like
Yeah,
just like you got the Yoruba people that can speak Hausa, you know what I'm saying? By them being in the same area so long, they probably spoke each other language, but had their own distinct language, like own mother tongues. You know what I'm saying?
I like to use things to make people understand it clearly. Like the Mexicans in California speaking English. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah. Also.
Yeah, when groups of people seem to live by each other, a lot of times they can speak each other's languages. You know what I'm saying, fluently, but also have their own, you know what I'm saying, their own mother tongue that they speak.
I don't want to make this assumption because I've been making it all night without clarification from somebody who studied.
Yeah, because even
no. Let me ask the next question because I like to make things simple enough.
I would say this too, because even certain branches of certain language families and groups have what they call loan words and borrow words that prove, you know what I'm saying, they even borrow certain language and attach to their own languages, you know what I'm saying, by being living in the same proximity.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. Are the Nakadans, when I say Nakada 1, Nakada 2, Nakada 3, are they the Proto-Egyptians? would you call those people the proto-Egyptians? Is it those people who?
culture?
I
No,
would,
no.
especially Nakata 3. I would.
So you're saying that the people of Nakada are actually those people went on to become the Egyptians. I don't want to make an assumption that other people don't agree with.
Yeah.
Right.
And according to Bruce Williams, Nakada is not even really, it wouldn't even be considered Lower Nubia. Nakada is still Upper Egypt. You know
it is a Cataract 1. Nakada would be where Cataract 1 is, right?
North of the Cataract 1, yeah.
North of the Cataract 1, right? So therefore, when people say cataract, I like to think cataracts are actually places or they measure the Nile.
Yeah, waterfalls.
Bends in the Nile, right? Bends in the Nile. So
they waterfalls.
They're waterfalls. So when Reggie talking about cataract 1, cataract 2, and you don't understand, it's based upon how they measure the Nile and where waterfalls are in the Nile. Right? So cataract 1.
Well, hold on. Let me straighten that out. It's not necessarily waterfalls. It's just a place where it's impassable due to maybe a lot of rocks or something like that can make it dangerous for you to pass. It could be a waterfall, but it definitely also could be.
A cataract is a waterfall, bro. Flat out.
It's also a rocky area where it's impassable. It does not have to be a waterfall there.
And the waterfall over the rock. It don't have to be a big waterfall or a small waterfall. Rocks cause waterfall, and elevation causes waterfall. So he's right with waterfall.
Yeah, bro. I'm from St. Louis. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, bro. I live on the I grew up on the Mississippi River. I know what the fucking cataract is.
Right. So you're telling me that a cataract? Hold on. Let's be clear. Watch this shit. You saying that a waterfall is a cataract? You're not saying that it does not have to be a waterfall. There's just a rocky area that's impassable. It does not have to be a waterfall. It should be a bunch of rocks there to keep you from being able to go through there, because of the rocks that's in the water. That's what you're saying. You said that it can't be that. It has to be a waterfall. That's what you're saying, Gullah. Hello.
Okay, so let's move on from that, because the cataract, impassable waterfall, same thing. It's an impassable area. Let's not live on that, right? So all right, so Nakada is slightly north of Cataract 1. We all agree with that, right? It is Nakada 3. We can consider Nakada 3 almost the early Egyptians are not Egypt. We can say they are the Egyptians, correct? Hello?
What was your question, bro?
No, the people in Nakada, they were trading both with the Nubians and who we call the Mesopotamians, correct?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they was traded with Mesopotamian. But even Nakada 1, doing like what they call the school age, they was even trading with people from Palestine and shit.
So they were trading with people within the Crescent Valley. The Crescent Valley, that nice floral area, what they call where the Arabs were from.
Yeah.
True? So the people in Nakada, which is a couple of 100 miles away from Lower Egypt, away from, we're going to use a modern term now, Constantinople, right? Up from the Delta. Nakada is hundreds of miles from the Delta. Yet still the Delta had different entrance where boats from Mesopotamia used to come down through the Delta down to Nakada. True?
Yeah.
And
plus you still have people in Lower Egypt at the same time, though. You had different cultures up there too.
I have different cultures up there who understand that trade.
People trade, you know what I'm saying, hand by hand and shit, you know what I'm saying?
And direct trade was occurring from the Crescent Valley to Nakada. So therefore, when people trade in, sometimes people stay.
Yeah, some people move in, they do their thing.
No, my thing is this. I disagree with all that, because my thing is that Egypt is a culture which is an amalgamation of many people. whether it want to be the Kushites, whether it want to be the Nubians, whether it want to be the Nakadians, whether it want to be the people from the Crescent Valley, the people from the Delta, the people from the West. Because to me, Egypt was like New York City.
Yeah. But at the same time, before it became urban, before it became like an urban center or whatever, you still had like, you still had like a base group. You know what I'm saying? There, like, you know what I'm saying? You had like certain, and it also depends on what part of the river you on too. You know what I'm saying? Certain areas you had like a certain dominant group there, you know what I'm saying? And, certain areas you might have like mostly Nilo-Saharan, areas. In some area you might have a hibernated area, some group you might have a North Uritic or Egyptian area that's dominant.
Okay. Would you say that Egypt was very wealthy?
You said
no,
wealthy?
Nakada. Would you say that Nakada was very wealthy? The society that exists near Cataract One, Luxor, would you say that that was a very wealthy society? A lot of money was there.
I could say, I mean, probably to their standards, you know what I'm saying? It could have, yeah, I think so.
To the standards what exists now, would I be far-fetched? Would me, Stupid Michael Smith, be far-fetched to say Luxor at that time, whatever it was called, would be comparable to Dubai in today's term?
What you mean?
In terms of wealth, in terms of
no, hell no, it wouldn't be no Dubai like some shit now. Hell no.
It wouldn't be that advanced. Although
Not
that
like
temples and all of that stuff.
At that time period?
Yeah, during the Nakadians. It had language. I'll show me that the language came from. It had written language. The written language came from down there up to the Nile. That's what Ong took out on the paper and said, look at the language, look at it then, and look at how it progressed as it got up the Nile. That was question number 2 he argued with me with.
But the Nakada period, the early Nakada period wouldn't have been no language yet. You know what I'm saying? The language didn't come around to around.
Nakada 3. Nakada 3, there wasn't writing.
Yeah, around Nakada 3. That's like right before, like Nakada 3. Nakada 3 is basically proto-dynastic. Like that's like Dynasty 0.
No, that's what I'm asking. When I say Nakada, I'm talking about 2 or 3. So Nakada 3, they had writing, they had temples. So Nakada 3 was like a blooming, flourishing metropolitan by Nakada 3. Correct?
Yeah.
Right. And
but
if you compare, it probably had like, you know what I'm saying, like a nice size villages and shit like that, but I don't think it was as big as how like after Norman, you know what I'm saying, all that shit, like after the dynasty periods, I don't think it was as big as that. So how many years between Nakada 3 and Nama? How many years?
Hold on, let me see. Let me look it up.
Between Nakada 3 and Nama, who unified Upper and Lower Egypt, how many years we're looking at? 500, 1,000? 2,000?
I said, let me look it up to make sure. I want to be exact.
Because what I like Brother Reggie, but what I don't like with his study is that he does not include timelines. If you listen to him and go back to listen to him, it's like he's talking about one timeline and a next timeline. Egypt lasted.
Yeah. Nakada 3 starts like shit, like 1,000 years, shit, 1,000 years before Normal.
Before Nama.
It ends right at Normal because it ends at 300 BCE.
All right. So Nama incorporate both Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt. Between Nakada 3 and Nama is 1,000 years.
Yeah. Because Nakada 3 is Dynasty 0.
Is Dynasty 0. So between Nakada 3 and Nama is 1,000 years, right?
Yeah,
so when
it starts. Yeah.
When Nama unified both sides, both crowns, because it was never unified before Nama, right?
You said
Was
what?
Was Upper and Lower Egypt unified before Nama unified them?
No, no.
So Egypt in all its glory is when Nama unified them. Were any other miracles or pyramid built before Nama?
You said wasn't any not sure. You probably had Tumala built. You know, no, it wasn't no pyramids built, nothing yet like that yet. Not
So,
until
so,
the
so
later dynasty.
no pyramid was built before Nama.
Nah.
So therefore we can now establish that based upon this, Nama is actually the father of Egypt. Would
Yeah,
you say that?
yeah. He started their bureaucracy. It was even like in the middle now, right? What you had the Nakata people there. You had the A group there. They don't even call it A. The scientists said they don't even want to call it A group Nubians no more. You know, so they just want to call it A group. You had the A group people there, and then this was Skahoo and all that shit. That's like what like even though you had like different mixtures of people, you know what I'm saying? You had the North Afro-Asiatic speaking people, so it would be the Proto-Egyptians.
Stop. Don't go too deep. Don't go too
No,
deep. I
no,
don't want
no.
to lose you.
Just hear me. Just hear me. Just hear me out.
No, no,
Just
no,
hear,
no,
just,
no, no,
no,
no,
just
no.
listen. No, let me talk, bro.
Yeah.
They had the people that was there that would have became the Egyptians. You had like the other Afro-Asiatic groups in the area, the Cushitic groups, and the Nilo-Saharan. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
Them
Okay.
like them people in that, like those people in that area, you know what I'm saying, would have traded off with culture and shit. But like the pharaonic, you know what I'm saying, political, you know what I'm saying, kingship and all that shit would have sprouted out of them groups of people intermingling with each other. It would have became like a trend type of thing amongst the different chieftains. You
Okay.
know what
All
I'm
right.
saying? They
So
style it like that shit.
what you're saying to me now is that when we're talking about Egypt and the coming together of Egypt, we're talking about the Kushite, the Nubians, the Akkadians, the people in Upper Egypt or Lower Egypt, the people in the West and the people in the East. So what you have just said to me, when Nama came to power, we had almost 5 distinct group of people that came together. Is that what you're saying to me?
Yeah, it would have. I ain't saying no 5 group. I named the major African
Yes.
groups that would have been there.
Yeah, you
I
name
ain't say
about
that. I
5
ain't say
groups.
that many as you said. I said the
Yeah, man.
Cushitic. I
The
said the
Cushitic,
Cushitic Afro-Asiatic speakers, the
the
Northern
Nubians,
Uritic speakers who would have been the Proto-Egyptian people, and
that's
you
2.
got
The
Nilo-Saharan
Nubians,
groups.
3, right?
Yeah, three major African groups.
So you had 3 major African groups. All right.
Yeah,
So 3 major African groups came together now to form this one superpower. Is that what you're saying?
yes.
And then from the superpower, when Nama came about, so Nama came about
But normal, like, you know what I'm saying, they still would have been who they were, but
right,
they just had this the pharaonic trend, whatever, like that style of politics, you know what I'm saying, would have trended throughout these different groups. Their pharaonic type style, the political style. You know what I'm
right.
saying? Even what they call sacral kingship, like making their chieftains sacred. You know what I'm saying? Even before that, like that style, the sacral kings, the kingship style, that cultural trait came from the Nilo-Saharians. The Afro-Asiatic speakers that had it at first. You know what I'm saying? They had a different type of system, you know what I'm saying? But then when they fused different systems, you know what I'm saying, and became different, different chieftains and power and, you know what I'm saying, fighting each other and all this shit become dominant. The Northern Uritic groups, you know what I'm saying, the Nakadian groups, you know what I'm saying, would have became dominant, you know what I'm saying, by the time Norma would have came, would have been, came around. Because he came from a whole confederacy, you know what I'm saying? Thinis was a confederacy.
Oh, so he came from a confederacy. So why is it that when Jabari discussed Nama, he says that Nama came from Upper Egypt and beat up Lower Egypt to take over the crown? When Egypt as we know it didn't exist before Nama. He's
guess
saying
I
that
don't know. I
Nama,
don't know if he's talking about region or what, but you know what I'm saying. Whoever the people up north was, he did fight. You know, fight some people up north, some
right, but
different chieftains, whoever they was.
would you consider the people up north the Egyptians before Nama?
No, no.
Then
They,
what the bar is saying when he talk that bullshit about Nama? No. Gola, you don't understand. Gola, listen, Gola, that's one
yeah,
good thing I'm
I heard what you're saying. I heard what you're saying because you would have different cultures up north. You would have the Fa'im people, the Mahdi groups, the Marimidi groups, all different type of groups up north in the Delta. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
Other different, yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. So Egypt is formed now under Nama. And this goes on for this Nama now introduced start Egypt on its road to become the glory of what it was supposed to become. He takes Egypt into the first steps of glory. Right? And then afterwards, other progressive kings came along and they start building the Mirakuts or the pyramids. They start establishing who they are as a people. Correct?
What was that? You said when Norma came.
Nama started the journey of turning Egypt into this great land.
Yeah,
True.
And then too, like remember what I said, right? Like this how Christopher Everett breaks it down. You know how I said like before Norma, you know what I'm saying, that the trend throughout the middle Nile up until like the lower Egypt, you had like the sacral kingship, you know what I'm saying, trend, you know, sort of this pharaonic type trend. When Norma, you know what I'm saying, became the king, you know what I'm saying, or you know what I'm saying, reunited the lands or whatever, they
reunited or united?
Yeah, united. Yeah, united.
Okay.
I'm gonna say united. He took a step further. They took a step further in that sacral kingship system, and he became the divine king. So they took a step further, and that bureaucracy became a whole different, you know what I'm saying, state. You know what I'm saying, something separate than the other rival sacral.
The reason I'm asking this question, right? The reason I'm asking, because if you realize what I'm doing, I'm asking you to baby step me. Because I want to be able to explain the whole progression of how Egypt became Egypt. Right? That's why I'm asking, and you have the knowledge. And I'm going to read more on what you said to back it up to say, you know, just for my own confirmation. It's not that I disbelieve you, but when you get new information, you need to research it. So Nama ruled. And Nama ruled for how long before Egypt broke into two again? Because Egypt was separated into two again, right? Or Egypt was Egypt ever separated again after Nama into Upper and Lower Egypt? Gola gone?
Yeah. You talking about that'll be the first intermediate period where like the you know what I'm saying, you had, you know what I'm saying, you didn't have like a centralized empire.
So it wasn't. So you had two separate empires. It wasn't central. You had two separate areas.
Yeah. Have you ever heard? Are you familiar with Abyssinian history?
Abyssinian, you mean the people in Ethiopia?
Yeah. Are you familiar with their history?
Not quite. I've heard part of it.
Like, it would have been similar to like this, like it's an age like between, I say like, I can't think of the years, but it's like I say like the 1600s. Now probably like after the late 1700s through the 1800s. In Ethiopia, you had what they call the age of princes. You know what I'm saying? You had like different. You didn't have like one. You didn't have a Negus Nagas or the emperor. You had different Neguses and Rosses, you know, battling each other for being the, like, you know what I'm saying, the emperor or whatever. Like different factions. It would have been like that during an intermediate period.
You see, because I know about English history, it would have been like what was happening in England before it was unified. You had different chieftains or different areas ruled by different people.
Stupid.
Yes?
What's up? What's happening, man? What's up, Gullah?
You know, asking God to walk me through to let me have a better understanding. And the more God walking me through, the more I'm considering Jabari to be a fraud.
Oh yeah, Gullah the truth when it comes to that, yo. He been on this shit, man.
Right? Because I'm going to ask God, I was saving it to ask him. When you hear Jabari speaking, and I don't think you listen to him a lot. Because based upon your knowledge, I don't think you can listen to him. I think you hear him, but you don't really listen to him.
No, I don't. I don't. I really don't listen. I don't listen.
We know
You
what
said
we
when you hear who speak?
Jabari.
Jabari.
Oh yeah,
Especially
man. I mean,
as an atheist, I don't go down that route at
I
all.
don't
I don't
really,
hear
I don't
nothing.
really
man,
listen
look.
to. I don't even listen to Sinetta like that unless like our people on there. Like that's, I look at that like some type of silly like entertainment show. I don't really like. You know,
All right.
take it serious.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
I'm going to throw a big stone in the pond and it will come back on me. But I have to throw it because when you hear Reggie take some steps, because I'm listening to you now, and you are clear and concise in what you say. I've heard Reggie take some steps when it comes to Egypt. The assumption he made, do you agree with how Reggie described Egypt and the history of Egypt? And what happened?
Not all the time, because a lot of time Reggie used a broad stroke when he explaining his you know what I'm saying, explaining his argument. Like he kind of group a lot of people together as one people. You know what I'm saying?
I think that is the root of the issue that we face when we are addressing Egypt, Kemet, and the like. We talk about groups of people, and we forget that these people are groups based on culture, based on ethnicity, and we say Nubia, and we put a phenotype in our head. Again, ranges. Egyptians was a culture that consisted of XYZ, and the phenotypes that of these people was a range. It wasn't a monolithic group of people that we can consider X or Y. That's like saying today black and assuming that we are talking about one specific phenotype. No, it's a collective name for a group of people that have a similar experience. But
Okay,
phenotypically, we're not
Wait,
known.
hold on, Cedric, I don't mean to cut you. I have one last question before I forget it. It's an important question that I needed to ask Gola.
Right.
Gola, at any time when Nama came to be the head of Egypt, at any time, I'm going to use capital. Was the capital ever moved from Upper Egypt to Lower Egypt? Was the most important city in Egypt after Nama established a place? Because we know Nama was from where we would consider Upper Egypt.
Hey, look, and we gonna get this last one in, right? Because we don't want the show to go. Hold on, we don't want the show to go too long. We want people to still be able to click in. But we're gonna let Gullah answer this one.
Yeah.
We're gonna let him answer it. We're gonna let him answer
it. The capital moved from Upper Egypt, Upper Egypt to Lower Egypt.
He heard you. Go ahead, Gullah.
Yeah, it did. Dennis, you know what I'm saying? When Norma moved up north, Memphis became the capital. You know what I'm saying? Dennis was like the old, you know what I'm saying, old city. I still think it was still like praised upon, but they still put it in a holy books and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? I still think it was like a city that was looked, you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying, pay homage to. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where that's where the lineage of kings, you know, normally came from. Even the Scorpion King came from Dennis too. You know, so you had a different line of kings that they come out of the Confederate.
Geographically, where that would have been.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think probably would have been like somewhere like north of Abydos or directly it probably was like directly north of Luxor.
Okay. So it moved further north.
Yeah, not that north, but like directly, like immediately north of Luxor.
Did the capital move anytime north over the history of Egypt? Did it move further north?
Yeah. Yeah, they was expansion.
Eventually end up.
You said what?
You sneaking in more questions, man.
It's the same question.
Come on, Stu Peas. We trying to wrap it up, Stu Peas. We got a part 2 tomorrow. Look, part 2 coming tomorrow. Goddamn, Stu Peas. I feel like
eventually end up, and I finish. Where did the capital eventually end up?
Hey, Stu Peas. Yes, shit. You got you on Facebook or something, man?
Yeah, Michael Leopold Smith.
You said Michael Livingston?
Leopold Smith.
Leopold.
Leopold like the Belgium.
Yeah. My grandfather was a white man.
I thought he was Jamaican,
yeah, my grandfather was a white man.
Look me up, Stu Peas. My name the same name you see on here. Look me up, we can rap.
All right, okay.
All right, folks.
And Michael Livingston,
we'll wrap it
right?
up for tonight. Great show. Tomorrow we gonna get back at it. Stu Peas, thanks for those questions. It brought a lot of clarity. Gullah, great job. Folks, good night. Pseudo Killers out. Peace.
Yes, indeed.